Hi, I'm Tom Laverty from Baseball Jerks, and this is our fucking fantasy baseball thing update, week 24. We're already a few days into the season, but since it's our inaugural post on our YouTube channel, I figured we'd get it done anyway, even though it's a couple days late. If you don't know, and if you haven't seen our fantasy baseball thing, we focus on the bad and not the good. It's mostly a roundup of assholes who shouldn't be on your team, but are most likely available and may still possibly be on your team, depending on what kind of manager you are. To start our list off for week 24, there's Melky Cabrera. He's obviously suspended, but I figured we'd talk about him for a second, because what's there to do when you have all kinds of money and nothing else to do? He's probably out at a really nice restaurant downtown somewhere, eating a mac and cheese with truffle oil and maybe a lamb shank sautéed in puppy tears or something like that. So he's out having a good time, and meanwhile the San Francisco Giants are still doing pretty damn good under Bruce Bochy and the Frankenstein, which I called it earlier this week in one of my articles. He doesn't need to be on your team because he doesn't give you any stats, but if you need ego points, he's there. Second, Quentin Berry. Quentin Berry got called up from the minor leagues. He's a 27-year-old journeyman who played, I think, with Pittsburgh, a handful of other teams. And he got called up for the Tigers to play center field when Austin Jackson was injured earlier in the season. He did a hell of a job. He brought speed to the Tigers lineup, which they haven't had in many years. He stole a lot of bases, but he's kind of funny looking. He's a funny looking guy. I'm not going to dwell too much on that. But, I'm not going to call him a jerk, but in terms of baseball jerks, he's become one, because he's now sitting the bench. Jackson's healthy, and he's become the brunt of jokes on Detroit sports talk radio. So you don't really want to have him on your team either. I have R.A. Dickey on the list for this week just because I think he's old and there's bags forming under his eyes, and at any point the air is going to come out of the balloon and he might come hissing to the ground. Look, I don't want to be wrong, but I'm just throwing it out there. Also on the list for this week, Carlos Pena, first baseman from Tampa Bay. Pena is unremarkably at the top of the list for the Triple Crown Loser Watch. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, Triple Crown would be pertinent. Triple Crown Loser would be someone who has the worst stats, but the required number of at-bats to get a Triple Crown. So let's say someone has 500-600 at-bats toward the end of the season. Now we look at who has the worst stats among qualifying batters. Carlos Pena is at the top of that list. Last time I checked, he had a pretty low batting average, and when we wrote this article, I think he was batting 190 something. 192 to be exact. He does have 17 dingers and 51 RBIs, but I'd drop him anyway if you have him on there. It's cool. He was cool, a couple years ago, but he's a jerk. Adam Dunn, simply because he's a jerk, and all he can do is hit home runs and strike out. I'm not sure what his batting average is. I think it's around 205. 38 home runs and 88 RBIs. This was a few days ago, mind you, so you may have a couple more. I don't know. But the way I see it, if you remove him from your team, you'll feel a little bit better about yourself when you lose. Dustin Ackley is on our list and will probably remain on our list for the remainder of the season. I noted that most online fantasy leagues had him actually deleted from the commissioners just deleted him. So he's no good. Over 531 at-bats, he's hit 230, and I looked at the whole thing. Okay, Baseball Reference showed me. This guy's batting average has stayed about 230 for the entire season. Okay, so if he's on your team because you're a Mariners fan, okay, it's either time to start being a fan of a different team, or to McFly, right? McFly. Kelly Johnson, I couldn't remember who this guy was. I feel like I heard his name a bunch of times. And when I did his baseball Reference search, I found that I'd seen him play a bunch of times in person. But, no. Couldn't remember who he was. Anyway, he has 14 home runs. He had 4 at-bats in the 2005 National League Divisional Series, but I don't remember that either. So, he's on this list mostly because I just couldn't remember who he was. Justin Smoke, another Mariner. We have a lot of Mariners on our list. Mariners, Oakland A's in the last couple weeks. Smoke, we don't really feel like he belongs on a major league team anymore, and I'm not sure the Mariners do either, but there's nothing really they can do about it. So we'll just leave that one at that. And then Jamal Weeks wasn't on our list last week. He's also Triple Crown Loser watch. The Oakland A's have the second worst batting average in the American League, 236, and Weeks fits right in. I mean, most of these guys are not the number one names for the Oakland A's that you can think of. Coco Crisp, mostly because of his name. Bartolo Colon, he's suspended, right? Yoenis Cespedes, or as we call him here in Detroit, the Cuban centipede. That's about it, right? So, anyway, Jamil Weeks was sent down, so I'm not sure why I'm bringing this up to you. But this is our fantasy baseball thing that we do once a week to kind of remind you that there's guys out there that that need a spot on a roster, and if you need some help, go that route. I'm Tom Laherty. We'll see you next week.